Pope Francis going to resign soon? There are some rumblings that that may take place because there's a really surprising move that Pope Francis just made yesterday that I haven't seen a whole lot of people pick up on yet. So there's some rumors floating around. He may resign. And, when it comes to rumors, I tend to think, you know, it's a it's a roll of the dice. You never know. Sometimes there's truth to them, sometimes there isn't. In this particular case, I was able to verify some interesting points that does kind of, raise an eyebrow, and make it certainly a possibility that he may resign very soon. I'm going to show you what specifically, I guess, triggered this speculation on part of some people. Of course, we know that Pope Francis has been in the hospital for a while. We've heard some rumblings that he's, not doing well to the point that he may not have much longer to live. Of course, that's not the official narrative. The official narrative is that he's in critical condition, but we're not really getting anything beyond that. They just say things like, well, he had a restful night and his state hasn't worsened. And he got up and sat in an armchair and is currently resting or something like that. Just really vague points. So we know that he's been going through that for a while. And so, some people have wondered, okay, is he going to resign? And I haven't really thought a whole lot about it. I've just kind of thought, well, unlikely, until I saw this morning. Um, Actually, before I show that to you, let me show you what Pope Francis has said about resigning in the past. Here's something that was posted last year. It says it's unclear whether Pope Francis is considering stepping aside. Francis has previously said he would consider retiring after Benedict opened the door to the resignation of modern-day popes. But Francis has shown no signs of stepping down and has asserted recently that the job of a pope is for life. Francis also confirmed in 2022 that shortly after the elected pontiff in 2013, he wrote a resignation letter in case medical problems impeded him from carrying out his duties, which it would seem, okay, that letter hasn't kicked in just yet. But we do know that that's out there. So he has made some hints in the past that, he's kind of open to the idea of resigning, but then in other interviews, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not so sure about that. I don't really have any plans for it. And so he's kind of off and on about it, but he does have this letter saying, hey, if it gets bad enough, that retirement and resignation just automatically kicks in. And he did that whenever he was first elected. But it may not come to that, because there may be some other kind of resignation that he will drop soon, similar to the one that we saw with Pope Benedict. And why am I saying that? Well, let me show you something that a lot of people have overlooked. This is from yesterday. Promulgation of decrees of the dicastery for the causes of saints. This is on the Vatican website, Holy See Press Office Summary of Bulletin. Again, from yesterday, from the 25th. And if you scroll down to the bottom, after it talks about how Pope Francis is going to canonize a number of individuals, and it lists who these individuals are, look at the last part of the last sentence. And Pope Francis decided to call a consistory regarding the upcoming canonizations. Now, I don't think people realize how odd that is. I mean, normally, hey, if he's not sick, that's not odd, right? To call a consistory, to maybe update the Cardinals about a canonization, not unusual. Usually that takes place at a general audience. He'll announce that he's going to have that consistory. But okay, think about this. He's in the hospital in critical condition, and he's thinking about calling a consistory, a meeting of cardinals, to talk about some upcoming canonizations? That's weird. I mean, this is not a pressing matter to call the cardinals to come together to talk about some upcoming canonizations while he's sitting in the hospital in critical condition. That's weird. It's even more weird when you consider the fact that's what Benedict did when he resigned. Some people may not realize, as I'm going to show here in a moment, when Benedict resigned, it was at a consistory just like this, some kind of minor consistory where they're talking about upcoming canonizations of saints. And all of the sudden, out of nowhere, Benedict drops this massive bombshell. By the way, guys, I'm retiring. I'm resigning. I'm abdicating as of this day. It was a really weird choice of location and time to give that resignation, but that's when it took place at a consistory just like this. So a lot of people are thinking, wait, hold on, that's weird because Benedict did that when he resigned. Now all of a sudden the Pope wants to call a consistory of the Cardinals together to talk about some upcoming canonizations while he's in critical condition. It sounds like he might be thinking about resigning. Is he going to, like Benedict did, whenever this consistory meets, is he going to then drop a bombshell saying, hey, y'all, I feel that I need to resign for the same reasons that Benedict felt he needed to resign? What were those reasons? Well, let's actually look at it in his own words. Let me make sure to enable audio so you can hear it and see why Benedict resigned and see if it actually relates to the situation with Pope Francis.
Explorata. Ad conditionem certam perveni,
In Latin, he says, after repeatedly examining my conscience before God, I've come to the certainty that due to an advanced age,
iris mias, in gravescente etate, non iam aptas esse ad monus petri.
my strengths are no longer suited to an adequate exercise of the Petri ministry. So he's saying, because I don't have the strength, I'm in no condition health-wise to continue this, he says. Oddly enough, he lived for another 10 years. Be that as it may, that's his reason for doing so.
Eque administrandum. Bene consciusum hoc mono secundum.
I am well aware that this ministry must be carried out not only with words and deeds, but no less with prayer and suffering.
Essentiam spiritualem non solum accendo et loquendo exequidibere, sed non minus patiendo et orando. Atamen.
However, in today's world, subject to so many rapid changes and shaken by deep questions or questions of deep relevance for the life of faith,
In mundo nostri temporis, rapidis mutationibus subjecto, et questionibus mani ponderis pro vita fide perturbato,
in order to govern the bark of St. Peter and proclaim the gospel, both strength of mind and body are necessary. And he feels like, hey, I don't have that strength of body to continue. So I'm resigning. All right, now think about this. Pope Francis is dealing with some very, very serious health issues and is 88 years old. The same reasons, if not more serious reasons, for Benedict resigning are present with Pope Francis. Pope Francis is in worse condition than whenever Benedict resigned. So if Pope Francis agrees that, yeah, if you're going to be Pope, you need to, you need to be in good health to be able to govern the bark of St. Peter, then he might take this as the opportunity to do so. And he might do so in the exact same way that Benedict did it. So again, this is what is raising some eyebrows for those who are paying attention. There's not a lot of people who have picked up on it. Some, however, have. Let me show you this. This is from AP News. Vatican says Pope Francis is critical but stable with no new respiratory crisis. And then it says, the Vatican's Tuesday noon bulletin contained a series of significant decisions Francis had taken. Most importantly, that he met on Monday with Cardinal Pietro Parolin to substitute, or let's see, the Vatican substitute or chief of staff. It was the first known time that the Pope had met with Parolin, who is essentially the Vatican prime minister since February 14th. Hospitalization, and the first outsider known to have called on Francis since Italian Premier Meloni visited February 19th. And what did he do? Well, he appointed two secretary generals of the government of Vatican City State. So very important positions in running affairs in the Vatican. So he went ahead and filled those spots. So it looks like he's tying up loose ends. And then it notes this. During the audience, Francis approved decrees for 2 saints and 5 people for beatification. The first step towards possible sainthood. Francis also convened a consistory, or a formal meeting of cardinals, to set the dates for the future canonizations. Francis regularly approves decrees from the Vatican saint-making office when he's at the Vatican, albeit during audiences with the head of the office, not Parolin. A consistory is a necessary ceremonial step in that saint-making process, and it is normal that no date is given at first. And you'll notice again, no date for the consistory is given. It wasn't clear, though, why there was such an urgency to approve the decrees while the Pope was in critical condition, when some of the new proposed saints have been waiting years, if not decades, for their causes to advance. So, like, what's the pressing matter? Well, why does this need to be done now? The signing of the decrees did serve to show the Pope fully in charge and provided a public way to announce Parollin's audience, but it also raised some questions. It was also at a banal consistory to set dates for canonizations on February 11th that Benedict XVI announced in Latin that he would resign because he couldn't keep up with the rigors of the papacy. So they picked up on it, and they connected the dots, and they said, wait, this is really conspicuous. Now, it's possible. It is possible. Coincidence. Maybe Pope Francis has no intention to resign currently, or if he does, maybe it has nothing to do with this current situation with the consistory of cardinals that will be meeting to talk about this. Maybe it's all coincidence. Maybe there's just too much speculation going on. Or there could be something to this. It is a pretty odd coincidence, right? Especially given that Pope Francis has in the past expressed some kind of support for the notion of resignations. And we know that he actually has one on file under certain conditions. So given that that is the case, I don't know, there might be some truth to this one. I suppose we'll find out whenever the College of Cardinals or the consistory of the Cardinals gets together. We don't know when that is going to be. They haven't told us publicly, so I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I suspect we'll find out pretty soon. I suspect we'll also find out pretty soon whether or not the news that he only had 72 hours to live, according to sources at the hospital, we'll find out pretty soon if that was true or not. I do want to give you another update here from CNA about Pope Francis and his health. Since we're talking about the situation, let's take a brief look at what they're saying. Pope Francis's pneumonia remains critical but stable, the Vatican says. The Holy See press office informs journalists Wednesday morning that Pope Francis has another quiet night at Rome's Gemelli Hospital and continues to rest, as his condition remains critical but stable while receiving treatment for double pneumonia. The Pope had a quiet night and is resting, the Holy See press office tells journalists on Wednesday morning. The Tuesday evening update on Pope Francis's health note that his clinical condition remains critical but stable. There have been no acute respiratory episodes, and hemodynamic parameters continue to be stable. In the evening, he underwent a scheduled CT scan, another one, to radiologically monitor the bilateral pneumonia. Twice daily statements have kept the faithful informed about the Pope's health since he was admitted to Gemelli Hospital on Friday, February the 14th. It continues. The 88-year-old is currently being treated for double pneumonia, and a health update last week noted that he is also showing signs of mild renal insufficiency, which appears to be under control. So more of the same. We're not getting a whole lot of additional details, and that is a little conspicuous. In fact, I have to agree, though I don't agree with him very often. I have to agree with what Raymond Arroyo says here. Shocking, right? I actually agree with the guy. Update on Pope's Health Wednesday. On Pope Health Wednesday, the Pope had a quiet night at the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, he says, and is resting. These morning updates from the Vatican are less and less useful, he notes. Unless something urgent occurs, they should just offer one medically substantive report in the PM and skip the repeated perfunctory morning statements. We assume he is resting. Tell us what we don't know. Agreed. All right. I agree with him on this point. And it is really conspicuous that we keep getting stuff like this from them instead of just kind of telling us what we're actually wanting to know about, which is his medical condition, not whether or not he got out of bed and sat in an armchair and watched TV and read the newspaper. We don't care about that. We care about how he's doing medically. So the fact that we keep getting weird statements like that, I don't know, makes me think that they're not being entirely transparent. That, or they're just really terrible at communication, which we've already known to be the case with the Vatican Communications Office. Absolute failure, as we have seen in the last, 13 or so years. And actually even more than that. You can certainly say the same thing about previous pontificates. Anyways, be that as it may, continue to pray for Pope Francis and his health and keep an eye out for this consistory, because there may be some, bombshells dropped pretty soon at this consistory as far as Pope Francis's ministry and Petrine ministry. Certainly worth keeping an eye on. If there's any developments to this, I will certainly keep y'all updated. And if you want to stay tuned and you want to be in touch with me and see those updates and you want to know whenever they're happening, you need to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell for notifications so you know when I go live, which sometimes is just out of nowhere whenever there's breaking news. So if you want to stay up to date and in tune with what's going on, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notification, and while you're at it, hit the like button too. And don't forget to leave a comment. See y'all soon. Thanks for watching. God bless. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you want to support the channel, visit patreon.com/Reason and Theology.